Hi, my name is Trey Martin, and I'm a Southern Baptist from a small rural county in Georgia. The first question that it asks four major questions. What is your religious or spiritual identity, and why do you identify as such? I consider myself a Southern Baptist, Christian, and I think the majority of the reason why I consider myself is I've been going to church since I was little. My parents are from a Christian family. I was born going to church. I was dedicated to Jesus at a young age, and I just always been in church. I've been in church ever since I can remember. I had to go every Wednesday. I went every Sunday. I was involved in youth group, and that really helped mold my beliefs in as far as being a Christian. The second question is, what stereotype that impacts your life based on your religious or spiritual identity? My biggest stereotype and the thing I have a biggest problem with are people that consider if you go to church, they automatically think you're Christian, and then if you don't go to church, then they automatically assume that you're not Christian. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I know in my current situation, going to college and not necessarily being home every weekend, sometimes that I just need the extra sleep, or sometimes I even decide that I want to watch church on TV. And for instance, I like watching Free Chapel and hearing Jensen Franklin preach, so I'll watch it at 11, wake up at 10:50. I can just watch it in my bed, and I still have church, and I still go closer to God, but I'm not necessarily in the church environment, which I know it's better to be in the church environment, but in my opinion, it's really like your relationship with God, and it's not really for other people to judge you. And the other thing is, I know a lot of people who are Christians who live probably a more spiritual life than me that don't necessarily go to church every week. And I think it really just depends on you and your relationship with God, and it shouldn't be people there to judge you and shouldn't create that stereotype. The third question is, how welcoming do you find your community to be following your religious or spiritual path? Well, considering Georgia and Northeast Georgia is in the Bible Belt, I consider it to be very specific, very welcoming. A lot of the communities, there's small churches and large churches. It really just depends on your preference. And the small churches I find are really welcoming. They're really nice, and you get a more like personal experience level. But you also have big churches like you can go to, like Free Chapel in Gainesville, or there's a church in Maysville called Grove Level, and I find those churches, they're really big, but they're still welcoming. But you can just go in and get out, and you don't necessarily have to talk to a lot of people. So if you're kind of shy at first, it's really great. But the small churches are really welcoming, and I think both churches are really welcoming because people want to do God's mission, and that is to lead and be disciples and make people into Christ. And the final thing it says, is there anything that else you would like to know about you and your religious beliefs or systems? One of the biggest things I have a problem with are people who live life one day, live like church. Then when they go to church, they're a different person when they're away from church. And I had this personal experience where I wasn't necessarily my youth pastor, who I looked up to and who I thought was a religious role model, was actually really mean to me about not anything really important to the church, but he was just really judgmental on me, and I felt like that wasn't really God's path and what God desired, and it actually made me kind of rethink my morals because of how he acted. And I feel like we're all human, we're all gonna make mistakes, but people should really think about how they act away from church, because people who don't believe really see, if they know you're a Christian, they know you go to church and you act the same way as them, or you're still doing bad things, they think, oh well, what's the point of being a Christian? And I think that's what really my belief system is. I'm going to say I'm a Christian, and then I'm going to act Christian 24/7, not just whenever it's convenient to me. Thank you, and that's my story.